Here in our Lesson 5 playlist, we're going to talk about some of the practical skills and activities that help us lead people toward faith in Christ and help them grow in their faith. So let's begin with Matthew chapter 5. This is Jesus talking. He says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Jesus says that good deeds help people see and glorify God. And when he's talking about seeing our good deeds, he's not talking about what I would call church good deeds. Nobody in the community is going to look around and say, "Wow, God," because you go to church, or even because you usher in church or teach kids church or play the bass on the worship team. Those are all great things, but those aren't the kind of things that get people's attention in the outside world. Other Bible verses where this particular phrase is used show us that good deeds are acts of practical compassion to serve other people. For example, some passages talk about generosity, sharing what you have with others who need it. Others talk about hospitality, making your home and your belongings available, or acts of service of different kinds, many different kinds. But one example of that is in Acts chapter 9. It says that in Joppa there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas, and she was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time, she became sick and died. And when Peter arrived, all the widows stood around him crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. So it says specifically she was always doing good, and you can see the impact that she had on these widows whom she had made clothing for. So I want you to understand that service to others goes hand in hand with evangelism. Now, I don't believe that compassionate service is by itself evangelism. St. Francis is thought to have said, "Preach the gospel at all times, use words if necessary." I believe words are necessary. People have to understand the good news in order to trust in Jesus. So the message is crucial, and people don't get it just by watching. So that's why we emphasize inviting people to church, and we created a tool like Foundations to help people share the message. But practical compassion is also important. It goes hand in hand with our message, because the good news of God's message of grace is supported by different kinds of proof. The truth itself is the message of salvation by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. But that message comes home to people's hearts in different ways. Intellectual objections call for one kind of proof, the proof that speaks to the mind. But often people have emotional barriers, and that requires a different kind of proof. Those are heart reasons why people reject our message. Maybe they've been hurt by someone. Maybe some church has acted wrongly. There's reasons why they don't trust Christians or Christianity. And so in this case, the proof is not intellectual, but it's how we live, how we treat people, how we make the love of God visible and tangible in a way that speaks to people's hearts and engenders their trust. So somebody put it like this: that love is the only soil in which the seeds of truth can grow. And we cultivate that soil with acts of service by demonstrating care and love in practical ways and meeting needs that people feel like they're cared for. In the community at large, serving helps people hear our message. Our society as a whole has, I believe, stopped listening because we've been saying the same words for decades, but people see Christians as angry, judgmental, hateful. The soil isn't very good. It's become hard and rocky. And so we cultivate the soil in a community by serving the community. In that way, we undo people's stereotypes and win the right to be heard. And then on an individual basis, likewise, we cultivate the soil in individual people's lives by serving those people around us in tangible ways that feel like love, that feel like care to them. For example, my neighbor has to repair a water pipe under her lawn. I'll be there with a shovel. My point here is that practical compassion is a powerful proof of the truth of the gospel. It helps people trust us, and that's how they know that we value them and genuinely care about them, because that's how they know that God values them and cares about them. So take a minute, pause the video, and talk about this whole idea of practical compassion, how it relates to sharing the gospel and helping others pursue God.